Unacademy. Let's crack it.
Hello everyone, this is Piyush, the Faculty of History and Culture. As you all know that the pre is knocking at the door for the 2023. So when it comes to UPSC pre-examination, civil services pre-examination, like this is one of the most complicated area, and complicated in terms of, I guess, the number. There's a huge number of students who are appearing in this examination, but at the same time, when it comes to the number which is ultimately getting selected, that number is very less. So I guess roughly around 14 to 15,000 students are getting selected, roughly around out of 10 lakh people, those who have been appearing or filling the form of the UPSC civil services examination. So when it comes to the preparation of UPSC civil services, specifically this pre, now of course you all have been preparing for this pre for last 1 year or 1.5 years, and you have almost covered all the areas or all the subjects which are considered to be the core part of UPSC pre-examinations. But then when it comes to the last moment, as I told you that now the pre is knocking at the door, and when it comes to this last moment, at the last moment, you need to give a different kind of shape to your preparation, and you need to focus on some specific areas from where exactly the questions are, coming. So let's say, since I have been teaching history, so I'll be talking about history only. And in fact, this session is also precisely based on history itself. So when it comes to history, of course, you have covered ancient Indian history, medieval Indian history, then modern Indian history. In fact, you have paid greater attention to modern Indian history, and then art and culture as well. But out of these areas, if you are revising, or out of these areas, you have been revising all of them continuously, in that case, it's not going to pay you properly. So this is the reason, because of what, when it comes to the last phase of your preparation, at that point of time, you have to pay proper attention to some of the specific areas from where most number of questions are being asked. So roughly what I'm trying to tell you, that there is a pattern you have to understand, though it is also said for UPSC that you can't confine UPSC in a particular pattern, because it never follows a specific pattern as such. But then still, by seeing the previous year papers, the question papers, previous year pre-question papers, at least you can find certain trends. Okay, this is how the questions are being framed in UPSC. So that can really help you to understand that in last moment, what are the areas where you are going to focus upon. In the last moment, it's going to help you to understand what are the facts or what are the conceptual ideas that you should try to collect. So this is somehow giving you an extra edge while preparing for this pre-examination. So in this particular session, what we are going to do, we are going to just discuss about the same thing. But for making it easy, what I have done, that I have divided the section or divided this particular lecture in two parts. In the first part, we'll be trying to understand that what are the areas where you need to focus more. This is the first thing. And the second thing, we will be discussing about some of the important topics what we can expect in the pre-question. Because when it comes to UPSC examination, specifically the pre-questions, you can find that there is certain impact of the current affairs, even over the questions coming from history and art and culture, could be also noticed very clearly. So if you have been blindly reading, and then instead of doing that, if you have been really trying to connect your preparation for the pre-examination with respect to the specific things which remain in limelight for last, let's say, couple of months, I guess say 10 months or 12 months, in that case, you'll be really able to give a, you'll be able to give a better shape to your preparation. And at the end moment, let me tell you, if you have been really trying to prepare in this way, in that case, you can get an extra edge of 2 to 3 questions. And if you are really getting 2 or 3 extra questions in the examination, so you all understand that what's the significance of it. Because there is a larger chunk of the students, those who have been failing, for this 3 marks or 4 marks or 5 marks. So those last 4 or 5 marks are very crucial. And so what we are going to do, we are just going to tell you about those areas through which you can at the end moment give such kind of shape to your preparation, that you can get this extra edge. So this is the basic idea. So as I told you, that we'll be dividing the lecture in 2 parts. In the first part, we'll be covering the basic things. Basic things means what are the areas where you should focus upon. That's the first part. And in the second part, what we're going to do, we're going to cover about some of the specific topics and certain information around that topic. Like this is what we're going to do in the second part, right? So let's start from the first part. So as I told you that I'm just going to get you in kind of analysis that from where the questions are mostly being asked in last 10 years, because before making this analysis of this this particular thing, I have mostly focused on the questions that have been asked in last 10 years. So that's why it's an analysis of the questions that have been asked in last 10 years. Let's see. So we have divided it into multiple parts such as ancient, medieval and modern. So this is how we are going to do it. So okay. So this is the objective that we had been discussing, that to identify the core areas of history from where mostly the questions are being asked. Then it's to simplify the input-output ratio. Of course, that's very important, and this is what I have been trying to discuss for last couple of minutes. That this you have to understand the input-output ratio. Of course, if you have been reading the whole history and you are just emphasizing on mugging up facts, like you are just mugging up facts. Like, it's not necessary that this is going to give you the right result. So that's why, like, you have to understand this input-output ratio. So whatever you have done so far, mostly students are covering all the parts of history, ancient, medieval, and modern. But at the end moment, at least you can, focus more on certain specific areas that you can get a better input-output ratio to help in the effective revision of the subjects. So of course you have to focus on certain areas while revising this subject, one step closer to realize your goal. Of course, this is the target that we do have, that we are just helping you to helping you in your revision, right? Okay, fine. So when it comes to understanding the pattern of the previous year questions, so as I told you, that though it's slightly tough to confine UPSC questions in a specific pattern, but still I'll be trying to at least locate the questions of UPSC pre with respect to history in different years, right? So the questions are divided into ancient, medieval and modern. These are the three areas, sorry. So there are three areas from where you can find the questions, like ancient, medieval and modern. Now you can ask this question that why I have excluded the art and culture segment. So I think this is one of the biggest problem I have always noticed with the UPSC students, that they never try to understand the current pattern. They always go for this popular pattern or the popular perception. And what is this popular perception? That the moment it comes to UPSC examination, specifically in pre and to some extent even in mains also, like they are always asking questions from art and culture. But if you're really serious about your for this attempt of UPSC 2023 pre, in that case, just go and check out the papers of previous and you can find that gradually that number of questions from art and culture is getting down, right? Now, I do not find a single question like last couple of years which are precisely from art and culture. Though it's a bit difficult for us to understand whether this question is falling in the category of art and culture or it is falling in the category of history. But one thing I can definitely say, that if anything you study in history, let's say you have been going for a formal study of history, and then while doing so, what you find, like if that particular content falls in the in that curriculum, in that case, it is not precisely part of art and culture. Of course, you are not reading about dance, you are not reading about music, you do not read about, let's say, some other important topics such as martial art is there, or fairs, festival, these kind of things are not there. So I'm not including that part, and you can really, or genuinely, I'm telling you, in last couple of questions, last couple of years, I must say 10 years, only 2 or 3 questions have been asked from those areas, like which are precisely falling in art and culture, and So this is the reason, because of what I must tell you, that you are not supposed to pay greater attention to that part, because now it hasn't remained that much relevant for you in the pre-examination. So that's the reason I'll be focusing more on ancient, medieval and modern. And out of these three, modern undoubtedly is more important for you, because this is a general pattern that more questions are being asked from modern. But again, you can't be pretty sure that it's going to happen always, that they're asking more number of questions from modern. It's quite possible that they're increasing the number of ancient and medieval. And in fact, in last couple of years, I have noticed this trend that gradually the number of questions from ancient and medieval are increasing. On the other hand, the number of questions are from modern, they either do remain same or in terms of number, or sometimes getting down also, or less number of questions are being asked. Okay. So what we're going to do. So however, there are some prominent sections from where the questions get repeated very frequently. So we'll be just trying to find out or locate those areas from where the questions are repeated very frequently, that at the end moment you can focus on those areas, right? Okay, know these areas and work upon them to ace the upcoming prelims, right? Every year, near about 20 questions. This, like I always used to say, around 2017 to 2022, 23 questions are being asked. So roughly we can say around 22, 23 questions, or roughly let's say 17 to 20 questions are being asked from history. And that's really a kind of substantial portion, a substantial part of your pre-examination. So that roughly stands for 20%. 20% is a very decent or very decent or substantial part, right? Okay, fine. Let's see the questions. First, like what is the number of questions which is being asked? So you can see that this is from 2011 to 2022. And in last so many years, if you'll see that in that case, you can find that now this number has definitely gone up to, not beyond 50, not up to, right? Beyond 15. This is, okay, sorry. It has gone beyond 15, right? So around 17, 18 questions or 20 questions, roughly this is the range. This is the last 5 years, and you all can see that more around 17, 18 questions have been asked every year. Like some year it has even reached to 20. Like in 2018, 20 questions have been asked. In 2021, 20 questions have been asked. In 2014, as you can say, more than 20 questions have been asked. I guess 22 or 23 questions were there. I guess 22 questions were there. So this is a kind of general pattern of the number of questions. So any year, any year, like there is no such year where there is there are less number of questions from history. At least there is a lower number, like that lower number, as I told you, it is roughly around 15. You can find the questions from this part. Okay. Now we'll be going area wise, right? So now this is the distribution of questions. So this green color is ancient, right? As you can see, this green color is ancient. This is, which color is this? This color is basically medieval, right? And then this blue color is modern questions, right? So ancient, medieval and modern. Now see a comparison. This comparison is very important, what I had been trying to highlight. So if you'll see the questions, in that case, you may find that earlier what pattern was that this is the 2011 questions and this is ancient part and this is the modern part. So from modern part, more number of questions were there, whether from ancient, less number of questions were there. Then gradually what UPSC has done, that they have started including the questions from medieval, that's one thing. And the second thing I can say, they have even started increasing the number of questions from ancient and medieval, right? So you can see that modern questions like 2012, good number, but then medieval was introduced and the number of questions from ancient was increased. Okay, in 2014, what we have noticed that the number of ancient questions were much more greater as compared to even modern also. But that has happened only in 1 year. Like this does not become a kind of regular pattern as such. But then, like after that, what you do find that this pattern is more or less pattern more or less continues. Like modern is important, right? Though the number of questions are fluctuating, even though I'll say modern is important, and never ever ignore modern part, because sometimes when it comes to pre or when it comes to UPSC examination, it's ultimately it's a competitive examination, or in a competitive examination you need to perform better than others. This is the core idea, and that since all students are paying more attention, or let's say giving more time or dedicating more effort to modern era, you need to do also the same thing. So don't ignore, even though in certain years you'll find the lesser number of questions, even though I won't ask you to ignore this area and focus it. But in 2022 itself, you can see that the number of questions from ancient, and then this is ancient, this is medieval, and this is modern. Like again in 2021, this is ancient, this is medieval, and then modern. So you can see that the medieval and ancient had really become important comparatively. So this is how you need to prepare. So you can't ignore this area. That's the core idea, that if you have been ignoring, so still you are left with this much time that at least you can cover them up, right? So let us start from the ancient, because this is the part which is gaining gradually more importance, and that's why we'll be starting from ancient. Now when it comes to ancient, this is again the number of questions, and you can see that more or less in 2022, how many questions are asked? 8 questions were there from this part. 2021, I guess 7 questions were there. Yeah, 7 questions were there. In 2020, the number of questions were 10 from ancient. So that shows you that how come, the importance of ancient is increasing. So that's how you need to pay proper attention. But does it really mean that you have to see all the areas of ancient? Because ancient is the most complicated part of your subject. Complicated as in you never pay that much attention to ancient. Of course, it is more important to you in the pre-examination. So if it is more important to you in the pre-examination, so you need to also focus or understand that what are the areas in ancient, like from where the questions are being picked up in UPSC pre-examination, and kindly pay more attention to them only. Let's see. Let's see that what are the areas from where mostly the questions are being asked. So if you'll see the questions, I have analyzed the questions of last 10 years, and in fact, I have done it in this way. Like let's say, like the first topic in ancient India is the prehistory, right? And prehistory is that area which is not important at all, right? There are a couple of sites, Neolithic sites precisely I can say, or let's say some Mesolithic painting sites might be important for you. But like as a part of ancient Indian history, I'm telling you honestly, this is not very important. So you don't need to pay greater attention to this Neolithic or let's say prehistory wala part that includes Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Chalcolithic, Neolithic and Chalcolithic. So don't pay much attention to it. And it is the most complicated part because it's very factual. So you don't need to get into those number of facts. Only see the Mesolithic sites. The Mesolithic sites, because they are known for their painting, as one of they're known for the painting sites. This is the reason because of it. It's important. Now, Indus Valley civilization is undoubtedly the most important part, and you need to pay or you need to cover this part very carefully. Look at the questions 2011, 12, 13, 17, 19, 21. Like in these many years, they have asked the questions. And I'm telling you the reasons because of what, like these many number of questions or this much frequent questions are being asked from Indus Valley civilization. Reason is that in last couple of years, the excavations, right, that has started taking place in the Indus sites in a more frequent manner. And in fact, like, like almost all I can say every year, the ASI teams are going into those places and they are excavating those places which are known to us even earlier. But now they have been trying to gather more information from them. So I must say that there are two sorts of, archaeology, which is known as basically the horizontal and the vertical. So now we have been focusing more on the horizontal excavations. So when we have been going for the horizontal excavations, so what happens now? Now with this, like we are able to collect more information. So when the more informations are coming, that's how they are becoming important. So apart from that, IVC is already important because this is the first urban civilization in Indian subcontinent. तो उस regard में ऐसे भी important है और आपको भी पता है कि पूरी दुनिया के 4 civilizations में ये एक है. तो I think it's very simple to understand that this is important, and UPSC has also understood the significance of this, and that's the reason because of what the questions are being asked from this part. Now there are, like if you'll see the questions, you'll be able to analyze. They are not asking very blunt kind of questions or very awkward or factual kind of questions. They are mostly asking the questions which are very logical as in अगर राखी गढ़ी excavate हो रहा है और राखी गढ़ी में कुछ information मिलती है तो लोग राखी गढ़ी के ऊपर एक question frame कर रहे हैं, या फिर लोथल के ऊपर जो है कुछ नई चीजें मिली है तो लोथल के ऊपर वो लोग question frame कर रहे हैं. तो एक पैटर्न देखते हैं हम कि कुछ चीजें जो खास हो रही है उसके ऊपर ज्यादा ये लोग क्वेश्चंस फ्रेम कर रहे हैं, तो वो आपको भी थोड़ा समझने की जरूरत है. ठीक है. Then it comes to the next period, which is Vedic period. Yes, it is important for us, but you see the questions that have been asked 2011, 14, 17. Look, when it comes to the recent changes, there are less possibilities that we can go for some recent changes in this part. Do you know why? Because जो भी sources है हमारे पास Vedic period के लिए, वो तब भी थे, आज भी है. Like archaeology is not helping us a lot to figure out, or let's say to find more information about them. That's the reason because of what we are not in a condition to find new information. But since it is the Vedic period is that period which is providing or making that platform for the Indian culture and society. So in that regard, it is important. So you need to cover some of the dimensions, but there you need to focus more on society wala part because that is more important. Moving to the next, Mauryan period. Again, in Mauryan period, questions from Mauryan period, the questions are asked 16, 19, 20, 22. So, like these are repeated frequently. But यहाँ पे भी आपको जिस part पे focus करना है, I guess Ashoka is the most important part. ठीक है. And along with Ashoka, you can also cover अशोका एंड अशोकन इंस्क्रिप्शन, दैट्स द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग। कई बार नाम पे भी सवाल पूछा गया है अशोका के। अशोका और अर्थशास्त्र, ये दो एरियाज है जिस पे आप फोकस करेंगे, और थोड़ा इस पीरियड के आर्किटेक्चर पे भी आप फोकस कर सकते हैं। देन इट कम्स टू गुप्ता पीरियड। दिस पीरियड आई फाइंड वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट? आई एम टेलिंग यू, this is a kind of insight also, and at the same time you can find some reflection here also. So from Gupta and post Gupta period, in last couple of years you see the questions 19, 20, 21, 22, matlab in last 4 years consecutively they have asked questions from this area. So I am telling you that this is one area which is gradually becoming important, and there are multiple reasons for that. It's not necessary that every time I have been defining the reason or I'm giving the right reason for it, but yes, it's becoming important, and even the question is also saying the same thing. And I'm telling you, this is not the only reason that UPSC has been asking questions from this part. That's how it became important. It's not true. Like, there are multiple reasons because of what this part has become important in last couple of years, right? Then it comes to Indian philosophy. 13, 14, there are 2 years questions were there. I think here you just need to collect some information for Sardarsana school, which is the Vedic philosophy, which is related to Vedic philosophy. And then there are some more such as Charvak philosophy and the Ajivika philosophy. These are a couple of areas that you can cover here. Okay? So this is the next part. Like, it's depending. Limited information you collect, and then you can exclude, you can exclude it, or you can avoid it. Then it comes to, again, one of the most important areas, and you can see that how come it had appeared in UPSC papers, pre-papers, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. Except 21, every year they have asked the questions. Undoubtedly, it's very important. But at the same time, if you have been collecting the very basic information for Buddhism and Jainism, that's not going to work for you. तो अगर आपको लगता है कि वही बुद्ध कब पैदा हुए थे, बुद्ध कहाँ पैदा हुए थे, कहाँ मरे थे, अगर आप सारे यही इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. Now they are more into some in-depth information. So I think this is one topic that you should prepare pretty well, right? ये आपको बहुत अच्छे से प्रिपेयर करना है, और इसके लिए बहुत सारे सोर्सेस हो सकते हैं. आप क्लासेस में भी इसे भी रेफर कर सकते हैं, बट दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट? सो दिस इज वन पार्ट. लाइक एवरी ईयर एटलीस्ट वन क्वेश्चन यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट. तो उनके जैसे बहुत सारे सेक्ट्स हैं, या फिर उनके बहुत सारे इनकारनेशंस हैं, ये सारे कुछ पार्ट है जहां से क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो उस पार्ट को देखना है. Okay, moving next. So that's about this temple architecture. Now again, this is a part which is undoubtedly important, but you can see the significance of this. Okay, if there is any temple which is important, such as this time also Khajuraho temple was in limelight. So Hampi has remained in limelight this year. So whenever you find that there are certain temples, due to any reason, if they are in limelight, you cover basic information about them. So let's say the way I'm trying to suggest you, such as Hampi has been Hampi was in news due to some reason. Now, if Hampi was there in the news, so you just need to collect that what are the popular temples in Hampi. That's one thing. Then what is this architectural style which is followed in Hampi? It's a different architectural style, and it's very unique. It's known as Pravida architectural style. So if there is any unique architectural style, in that case you need to collect information from that also. So I think when it comes to this temple architecture, more you link it with the current and prepare it, rather randomly you have been preparing it. अगर आप randomly prepare करेंगे तो temples या architecture ऐसी चीज है जिसमें information की कोई कमी नहीं है, immense information है, और आप collect करते रह जाएंगे, आपका कभी खत्म नहीं होगा. तो आपको इस तरीके से focus करना है, right? Okay. Then prominent cave architectures. Instead of this normal temple architecture, the cave architectures are more prominent because more number of questions have been asked from this part. तो यहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि cave architecture पे थोड़ा ज़्यादा focus करने की जरूरत है. Then it comes to Indian art and culture, specifically music, dance, martial arts, folk dances, and language. From there you can find the questions are coming 12, 13, 14, 15, consecutively 4 years, and last couple of years only in 17 they have asked a question. So again, this is that part which is which is somehow linked to the current affairs. अगर current में कुछ ऐसा चीज है, कोई डांस फॉर्म को लेके, किसी डांस फॉर्म को लेके अगर आपको लगता है कि कुछ चीजें रही है लाइमलाइट में, तो मुझे लगता है फिर वो आपको कवर करना चाहिए. तो आई थिंक इंस्टीड ऑफ गोइंग ब्लाइंड, इट्स बेटर टू कवर इट विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू current. Okay, then this is another part which is gradually becoming important these days, and that's called as terminologies. ठीक है, So from ancient and medieval precisely, they have started picking up the terminologies, and from the terminologies they are making the question. I guess this is the easiest part to cover, because you can collect the terminologies from anywhere. Like I remember last year before the pre, I had been taking couple of classes on Unacademy, online, and I just took 5 classes on these things, and from those 5 classes 2 questions have been asked. So I guess this was really a good good success ki out of 5 classes, the classes were also of I guess 45 minutes or 1 hour. अगर 5 classes में से 2 questions निकल के आ रही है, तो I think this is a good thing. But it's all about focusing on the right thing. So we have just collected the terminologies, and these terminologies, from these terminologies you can find the questions. Then it comes to ancient literature. Yeah, this is important, and these years, like I have noticed that literature has become important. And in fact, in every part, I have noticed that questions are being asked from literature. तो literature से जो questions आ रहे हैं, उसको थोड़ा सा देखना है, ठीक है? Ancient philosophers and travelers. That's not very important. In 2013, though they have asked a question, but okay, fine, you can ignore it, or you can just partially cover it. Okay. This is the distribution of questions, okay, that from which particular topic how many questions are being asked. So I think it's clearly visible, it's clearly visible that this is the most important topic. तो ये part आप सबसे अच्छे से cover करके जाइए, क्योंकि यहाँ से questions आता है, ठीक है? Like Indian art and culture combinedly ये number बड़ा है, but ठीक है, आप इसको, इसमें बहुत सारे topics जो है, छोटे-छोटे topics included है, इतना focus करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Gupta is again important, and then IVC is important. At least 3-4 topics are very important, so you need to pay attention to it, right? Now moving to the modern history. Now in the modern history, as you can see the number of questions, the way we have done it for ancient, the same thing we have done for modern also. So from modern, as you can see that number of questions are sometimes too much, like in 2018, as you can see, around 12 questions have been asked. So in this year, 12 questions were there. Okay, this year 12 questions were there. This year, I think 11 question was there. And 2021, you can find how many questions? 9 questions were there from this part. So there are a couple of years where you can find good number of questions, then here 8, here 8. So if 8 or 10 questions are being asked from any particular area, so it is important. Even though if they are not asking the questions, as you can see in couple of years, 2022, only 4 questions have been asked. In some other years also you can find that the number of questions are less. Even though I won't suggest you to ignore this part. इसको बिल्कुल ignore मत करिए, इसको अच्छे से करिए, ठीक है? But modern, maybe there is no dearth of information, right? There is ample amount of information. The point is that what are the areas we should focus upon, from where there is more probability of questions to be asked. So let's see that what are the areas that we can see in this particular part. Okay, so if we'll see modern, in that case, Gandhian movement is one topic from where questions are being asked. Sorry. Yeah. So Gandhian movement is one topic which is there in the question, which appears in the question. Though I won't say it's very frequently questions are being asked, but still I can say the questions are asked. गांधीयन मूवमेंट के बारे में मोरलेस इन्फॉर्मेशन आपके पास होती है, ठीक है, सभी लोग पढ़ते हैं गांधीयन मूवमेंट के बारे में, तो बहुत चैलेंजिंग एरिया नहीं है, ये आप बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं, ठीक है. नेक्स्ट हम देख सकते हैं कि दिस इज ए वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डायमेंशन, because all these acts which were passed, like from 1773, the regulating act, to let's say 1935, the Government of India Act 1935, like all these acts, and out of them there are a couple of them which are very important, such as when it comes to 1773 regulating act, 1784 Pitt's India Act, then I can say 1813 Charter Act and 1833 Charter Act. These two are very important. Then it comes to the Council Act. They are also important. And then last three, 1909, 1919 and 1935, they are तो undoubtedly important. ठीक है. So ये part है जो आप देख सकते हैं कितने questions पूछे गए इसमें से, तो you all can understand कि this is an important part, right? Then the economic impact of the British policies. This is one part from where I have noticed that they have been asking questions which are more conceptual. So I won't ask you to go for numbers of facts as such. Rather, if your concepts are sound of deindustrialization, then commercialization of agriculture, then we can talk about land revenue settlement, then drain of wealth. तो अगर आपका concept sound है, तो I think you'll be able to do it. So it's not very factual; it's more conceptual. Then the movements and events after 1940. This is another part which is very important. Okay? Now, if we'll see the concentration of questions, you can find that the concentration of questions are more from this particular part, in this particular part, 1940 to 1947. तो ये एक पार्ट है जिसमें बहुत सारे डेवलपमेंट आपको भी पता है, क्रिप्स मिशन है, ठीक है, या फिर अगस्त ऑफर, देन क्रिप्स मिशन, देन then Simla conference, and all these things are they are very important. So from this part, and then INA obviously, and then the naval mutiny, these are the things which are important. So there are multiple events which are there in this period, and in fact this year or these years are very crucial in terms of Indian independence. So you need to cover it properly. Okay, then it comes to the committees, reports, recommendations during the British period. So this is one part which is highly factual part and highly confusing part. I'm telling you both the things. It's factual, okay? It's factual, at the same time it is the confusing part also. So you can definitely revise it again and again. Whereas जो part factual होता है उस part में सबसे ज़्यादा complications appear होती है. तो मुझे लगता है कि जिस part पे आपको लगता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा facts है उसको थोड़ा बार बार revise करिए, थोड़े questions ज़्यादा practice करिए उस part से, तो चीज़ें ज़्यादा सही होंगी, ठीक है. Okay, then it comes to literature produced during Indian freedom movement phase. So questions are there in last couple of years like 2011, 18, 20 and 21. I have already told you that literature from all the parts, ancient, medieval, irrespective of the period, it is important. So you pay some attention to it, right? Now this becomes again very important, and in fact in your syllabus also it is written, of course in the main syllabus, but this is really important. And what is it? The prominent personalities and their contributors, their contributions to the Indian freedom movement. Right, so you look at the questions, number of questions 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 19, 21, 22. अब ये थोड़ा problematic part है. क्यों problematic part है? क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है कि modern India में there is dearth of personalities. How many personalities you can cover? That is the most important question. So I think again this is one thing that can be related to the current affairs, right? At least the personalities which had been in, which are in limelight or in news, right? Due to any reason, now this is important for you. So of course you cannot cover all the personalities, because as I told you the number is not less, but at least you can cover all those personalities. The personalities, those are in limelight due to any reason. Now one more thing, that what are the things which should be covered for them, such as if we'll talk about 2022 to 23 pre-examination, I can say, let's say Raja Ram Mohan Roy is important, right? Then we can talk about, let's say Savarkar is important. Then we can talk about that person, Dayanand Saraswati is very important. So this is how we can talk about many such personalities which are also in limelight in last couple of months. So they are important. Now what are the things should be covered? So basically their contributions. Like what contributions? So in their contributions we can count first the books written by them, any organizations set up by them, the other things happening in the same period or the contemporary events, then that's also very important. The contemporary events or the contemporary, let's say, events or contemporary personalities, they might be important. So here you need to be very cautious while preparing this part. और यहाँ पे थोड़ा आपको attentive होके कि what are the dimensions from where the questions may be asked, so you can cover the questions in this particular way. So this is like this is like very important for you. So you just pay proper attention to it. Then it comes to social reformation movement and the associated prominent reformers. Again, it's a question indirectly related to the same personalities, but yes, at the same time you need to focus on their contributions. The social reformation में क्या-क्या contributions थे या कौन-कौन सी important organizations थी जो उन्होंने बनाई, ये part आपको करना है. Then important sessions of the Indian National Congress, this topic is important, but okay, less number of questions have been asked. But ऐसे भी कुछ है, मुझे लगता है कि 10 ऐसे कांग्रेस सेशंस है जो आप कर सकते हैं क्योंकि वो इंपॉर्टेंट रहे. 10 या बहुत ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 12 या 13 कांग्रेस सेशंस है जो इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो आप वो कर सकते हैं और इनफैक्ट करके रखना चाहिए. Important events during the national struggle for independence. So this is of course important, like, this should be always linked with the current ones again. There are, like, sometimes we have been celebrating the, let's say 50, sorry, of course not 50, 150 years or 200 years. तो वहाँ पे अगर आपको लगता है कि ये चीज़ important है, तो आप फिर करंट से लिंक करके उनको कवर करिए, बट ये पार्ट आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो मॉडर्न में भी मुझे लगता है कि इंस्टीड ऑफ कवरिंग एवरीथिंग, देयर आर कपल ऑफ एरियाज दैट शुड बी फोकस्ड अपॉन, एंड देयर आर कपल ऑफ एरियाज द वे यू हैव बीन कवरिंग, you continue covering in the same way. That's how you can do it. So these are the certain suggestions for the modern part. Okay. Okay. So this is the distribution of the questions. As you can see that this is how, like, that's how the questions are being asked, and you can see that there are a couple of areas which are very important. Sorry. Now, acts, so important, right? Then prominent personalities, though, or there are certain important events with respect to the current. ये तीन टॉपिक तो आप बहुत अच्छे से जो है आप करिए, इसका बेनिफिट आपको डेफिनेटली मिलेगा, राइट? ओके, मूव टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. नाउ medieval. Now this is a new area which is added in UPSC pre-examination. ठीक है, एक नया डायमेंशन है, नया एरिया है, बट इंपॉर्टेंट बन गया है. इंपॉर्टेंट इसलिए क्योंकि आपको मैंने शुरुआत में ही वो कंपैरिजन, वो एनालिसिस दिया. यू ऑल कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि ग्रेजुअली द नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस आर इंक्रीजिंग फ्रॉम दिस पार्ट, तो यू हैव टू कवर इट, यू कांट इग्नोर इट. बट येस, like when it comes to the medieval part, don't read the whole history. This is the period where there's, like, good number of factual information, but then whether there is any benefit of collecting these factual information, I'll prefer to say no. So what are the areas that we should focus upon? So you can see that this is the number of questions, and then, like, you see the last couple of years, except 2020, you can see that every year at least 5 questions or 6 questions have been asked, and 6 is a decent number. And in fact, I'm telling you this, by paying a proper attention or a sort of limited attention, you can cover at least 3 questions or 4 questions you can do from this part. So let's see what are the areas you should focus here. Bhakti and Sufi movement, there should not be any doubt that this is important, and in fact you all understand that this is important. अब यहाँ पे थोड़ा क्या करना है, Bhakti and Sufi movement में, instead of covering it very conceptually, like, you focus more on personalities. भक्ति एंड सूफी मूवमेंट में अगर आपको कोई ऐसी पर्सनालिटी मिलती है जिनकी वजह से करंट में कुछ बातें चली है या जिनके ऊपर बातें चली है, तो फिर उसके ऊपर ज़्यादा अटेंशन दीजिए और ऐसे भी थोड़ी पर्सनालिटीज़ पे फोकस करिए, ठीक है. देन दिल्ली सल्तनत, दिस इज वन एरिया, अगेन देयर इज स्ट्रेच्ड हिस्ट्री ऑफ दिस, बट देयर आर सम बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन यू कैन कलेक्ट फ्रॉम दिस पार्ट. मुगल इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस, मुगल पीरियड, और ऐसे भी काफ़ी कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल है पिछले कुछ टाइम से, तो मुगल्स पे थोड़ा अटेंशन देना चाहिए. बट मुझे लगता है इसमें भी बहुत फैक्चुअल, मतलब वॉर्स और नेम्स की बजाय आप क्या कर सकते हैं कि आप थोड़ा जो है बड़े स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस हैं, अगर जैसे मनसबदारी सिस्टम है, जागीर सिस्टम है, या सल्तनत में एकता सिस्टम है, तो थोड़े जो है इंस्टीट्यूशंस है, राइट, स्पेसिफिकली इन दीज 2 पार्ट्स, ठीक है, इन दीज 2 पार्ट्स देयर, इफ देयर वर सम प्रोमिनेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस, so these institutions should be focused upon. Vijayanagar, I find it very important, right? I find it very important. And from Vijayanagar, you can see that in last 10, 11 years, how many questions have been asked. Vijayanagar is important. There is no dearth of information on Vijayanagar. ये part बहुत अच्छे से cover करिए, right? And then it comes to terminologies. Again, very important. अगर आप medieval में कुछ नहीं भी करने का वक्त हो, तो you at least collect the terminologies that you can find in multiple places. The PDF you can find, and then you cover all these terminologies. एक या 2 questions पक्का इसमें से आते हैं, तो you just cover this part, right? So when it comes to ancient, medieval, right? Ancient, medieval and modern. So these are the areas from where, like, questions are being asked. Yeah, this is the distribution of questions, ठीक है? So these are the areas that you have to cover. So that's how at the end moment you pay some attention to these स्पेसिफिक एरियाज, और उस पे अटेंशन पे करके उस पे ज़्यादा काम करने की कोशिश करिए. मुझे लगता है कि लास्ट मोमेंट पे इसका रिजल्ट अच्छा होगा और मतलब आपके प्री में ये थोड़ा हेल्प करेगा. सो दैट्स ऑल अबाउट दिस फर्स्ट सेशन, राइट? So we'll be coming up with another session where we'll be discussing about some of the important updates about history with respect to current affairs, right? That we'll be discussing in the second half. Thank you very much.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.